Good day and welcome to this edition of our Sunday afternoon magazine program, Press R. Today we'll look at Parliament that will be starting or will open on Tuesday, the National Assembly and the Senate, and a lot is expected from the House, given that it's coming on the heels of the major national dialogue. So members of Parliament should be able to work on some of the recommendations. That's what the people think. But that notwithstanding, within the week, the New Deal government celebrated 7 years in power in Cameroon, and it looked like a CPDM monopoly. Is that what it's supposed to be? We'll ask the question and ask whether the New Deal has prepared the grounds for the political future of Cameroon, given that it has been in power for 37 years. And if we have time, we should have time to pay tribute to one who contributed immensely on Press R whenever we needed him. That's Barrister Ben Achumona, who was buried yesterday. He died on the 6th of October. To do that with me on the set this midday, we have from my right to the left, we have Barrister Christophe Andong. He is the Secretary General of the CRM political party. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. Thank you, televiewers of CRTV. Thank you, the fans of Press Hour. Once again, I am on stage to debate on these topical issues that, in fact, are things that are burning and Cameroonians are ready to listen. This is a program that is well communicated nationally and internationally, Mr. Joe. Okay, we want to welcome Dr. Kingsley Ngange. He traveled all the way from Boya. He's a political communicator. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As a matter of fact, I came all the way from Boya with a message which is built on 3 words: hope, optimism, and peace building.
We've not yet, we are not yet at the level of the message.
I just wanted to set the stage so that you know the context within which I will be participating in this wonderful program after about 5 years.
Okay. We have a regular face on the program, Professor Elvis Ngolengole. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe, and it's a great pleasure to share the plateau with Barrister Ndong and my and Dr. Kingsley Ngange, both of whom are my friends and we're used to each other. Okay. I think that it's always a great pleasure to
be part of the program.
To be part of the program and to enable the public to enrich itself from the exchanges that come from a prestigious program such as yours.
Okay. We are waiting for Barrister Henry Kemende, SDF Senator from the Northwest region. But before we start, I'd like us to go over to our machines to see what the press was feeding on this week. Our press review.
The suspension of Cameroon from the AGOA Act received a lot of media attention this week. The Post newspaper sees the U.S. unleashing another devastating economic sanction on Cameroon. To the paper, billions CFA francs are to be lost after this decision. The Horizon brings to the fore government's reaction, but to the scoop, government strikes back at U.S. over trade deal suspension, denies growing human rights abuse. This leaves municipal updates to wonder, Trump ruining U.S. of hard-earned reputation. According to the paper, since Donald Trump became U.S. president, the good side of America is being replaced by negativism. At a time, the Guardian Post headlines, after suspension of trade deals with Cameroon, U.S. diplomats hints more sanctions will follow if, to the paper, more sanctions will follow if the alleged rights violations continue. Then goes further to highlight what Cameroon stand to lose as U.S. counsels trade agreement. Then the 37-year anniversary of the New Deal government saturates newspaper columns. Cameroon Tribune headlines, 37 years of the New Deal, loyalty renewed, yet the Voice sees unsavory anniversary presents to the Lion Man, cites AGOA termination, Guacho landslide, and more as reasons. To the Post Weekender, Bia's 37 years in power have been a stewardship of pain, tears, anguish, joy, and laughter. On its heels comes Municipal Updates with the headline, Destiny, Compendium on President's 37 years in power. The reporter takes its readers to celebrations in the Northwest, where CPDM supporters have been urged to patiently wait for National Dialogue package. But the Guardian Post seeks answers 37 long years in power, could Biya have gone this far without Anglophones? This at a time Minister Fu Callisto's rallies message behind Paul Biya, as Newswatch sees a Tanganji Ngala Gerald rallying Mezam Nkambe behind Biya. The Herald Tribune rather sees Paul Tanganji and Felix Mbayu behind successful 37th anniversary in Bamenda. Then Boya gets interim mayor, announces municipal updates. To the Post, Dr. Evander succeeds Ekema Patrick, but Newswatch is yet to understand how Evander Lionga thrived over Motombi Mbome to become interim mayor of Boya. Barrister Ben Mana then begins journey home on the Scope newspaper and receives Ntumfo Nico Hale's emotional tribute on the Guardian Post and Newswatch newspapers, as Ben Mana's final journey takes him to Ngeimbo on the Voice newspaper. The demand for prosecution of perpetrators of the Sangmalima riots by National Rights Commission, the call by PCC Christians and clergy for suspension of synod elections, the donation of 40 billion CFA francs by France to reconstruct Northwest and Southwest regions, and the story of a contractor who reported Forzo Victor to the Pope for unpaid bills also form stories reported by the papers this week. Let's now end our press review with this story on Newswatch newspaper, where Stanley Eno's fans have bashed him for what they term biased sympathetic gesture. According to Ndi Ujindi of Newswatch, some question why he will quickly reach out to the landslide victims in Gwashu, Bafoussam, few days after, and has not been able to do same for the thousands of internally displaced persons from the Northwest and Southwest over 3 years after. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Okay, we want to welcome Senator Henry Kemede. Parliament is reconvening on Tuesday, and a lot of people are looking forward to a lot of expectations. Do they have reasons for that?
Well, it is a right of Cameroonians to have high expectations at any single moment. But I think that if their expectations are coming as a result of the Grand National Dialogue or the National Dialogue,
the major
national dialogue, if that is where their expectations are coming from, then I very much doubt whether they will have anything. Because considering the atmosphere under which the National Dialogue held, it is but normal that the head of state would have convened the parliament in Congress if that issue was so important to him. He would have convened the parliament in Congress for decisions to be taken with regard to what the conclusions of the Grand National Dialogue. But to have waited for the ordinary session to hold for such things to come in, I don't think people matches the expectations of Cameroonians.
Okay, that sounds quite interesting. I haven't had that thinking before. But people feel that because it's the parliament's reconvening on the heels of the major national dialogue, people should expect, Cameroonians should expect, because MPs would certainly question or be given bills to discuss concerning the current crisis in the Northwest and Southwest.
Exactly, Joe, and I think that's exactly why I mentioned when you introduced me that I come with hope and optimism. I'm someone who believes that the cup is halfway full, not halfway empty. What do I mean? Contrary to what the senator said, I think that Cameroonians are full of hope, and rightly so, that the upcoming parliamentary session is going to take one step further some of the major resolutions that were taken at the major national dialogue.
But you are not a member of parliament yourself. How would you contribute?
I'm not a member of parliament, but we have representatives. That is what it means, Cameroon as a republic, in which we have elected representatives who will speak on our behalf. And I think the gap between the major national dialogue and the upcoming parliamentary session gave the representatives time, and I think that's where probably the senator didn't get it. Time for the representatives to move back to their constituencies and be able to discuss again with the people about, for instance, the whole issue about...
You mean discussing again?
What are they discussing again?
You mean that the recommendations that were made can be modified?
No, the recommendations have been made. Get the point. The recommendations have been made. But one of the recommendations, for instance, was the special status. But the special status is a cap. What is going to be in the special status? It's important for the representatives to discuss with their members of their constituencies so that they will come to discussing the special status, bearing in mind the expectations of the people. That's what we're talking about.
All right.
And that's why this gap was important, for them to consult with the people. There is nobody who went to the table of the, to the Grand Major National Dialogue with a prepared
position?
Special status. Special
now,
status. Now it's about the content of the special status.
Yes. Those who side with the senator would say that Parliament has not been Parliament has not been at the forefront.
That is what I wanted to chip in.
Seeking.
That's just what I wanted to chip in.
How would they?
So why don't you think that?
Why
don't you think that this is now the time for Parliament to come up to the forefront?
That's
why I said my contribution is based on hope, optimism. We have the atmosphere is full of negativism. So I want to say that we are hopeful the Parliament will have this opportunity to be able to now take the front lead.
Okay. You've made your point. Barrister Christopher Ndong, you weren't at the Major National Dialogue. You got some of the recommendations made, and are you hoping alongside those who are hoping, your supporters, that at least the recommendations will be concretized this time around with Parliament meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Joe. I want to queue up with the statement made by Leonard Barrister Senator Kemende Henry, saying that except, as we know, the government is a violator of every law, this Parliament that will sit in tomorrow has one agenda, and I tie with Barrister Kemende. It will be very strange to see other things propping up other than the budget to be discussed. And because the government is the government that violates, it does things with impunity, you will be surprised. And I will be surprised. Cameroonians will be surprised, even though they have the hope. But I'm telling them that it is a session for
If they have hope, then they are hoping for what?
Listen, I'm saying that if we see anything other than the budget or added to the budget that will be discussed this session, it will be another stage that the persons who rule us, the government in power, is bringing to shape our minds all over. I'm saying this Parliament will sit, Senate will sit. It's a budgetary session. It's not meant for the national dialogue. It's not meant for any other thing. If they have to, and they want to do things, let them think of the electoral code. Let them modify the electoral, that is the electoral institutions, the electoral code. Let them bring all other things on the table. If they are bringing that of the national dialogue, because it was part of it.
Now
we are saying,
let me ask you, what if in the course of the current, the session that will be beginning on Tuesday, to bring in issues like what you're talking about?
It will be an abuse of power. And we're saying that
it will be an abuse of power.
Now listen, they should call for an extraordinary parliamentary session. They would have done that before even this regular session, to look at what came out from the national dialogue. Not coming to mix things from time immemorial. This Parliament has been meeting in ordinary session. We have not been seeing other things when it's a budgetary session. So this time around, if they bring it, meaning there's a new dawn, and it's a new stake of life, political situation, we shall be happy if it comes in, but they shall be violating their own very laws. So since the government of violations, we think that if they do it, that is what they would have done, violating the law. But if they bring it, it's a welcome factor, because the country is burning and there are other burning issues. Don't only bring the resolution of the national dialogue. There are many other things to be brought in Parliament. If they want to make everything,
you're saying that they should bring in other things, which means Parliament can handle them.
They can. I'm not refusing. They can handle it, but then it will be a surprise and a new dawn in the way Parliament has been putting since the last mandate.
You know that
the extended mandate.
Yes, you know that life is made up of hopes and aspirations.
That's right.
And so everybody who wants to hope should hope, and then the one who doesn't want to hope, it's a right. It's just the condition of the mind, right, Prof? And when they say when he speaks the way he speaks, and you look at you were an active member in the Major National Dialogue, and you look at the way things are going, the political evolution of the country. Do you think that those who are hoping have reasons to hope?
Of course, yes. There is no society without hope. Hope is an ingredient that every society needs in order for it to go forward. this is why I share with Dr. Kingsley Ngange when he says that he has come into this on this plateau with on this set with hope and optimism. You know, we are all Democrats. I believe all of us on this set, we are Democrats. We believe in democracy, and we believe that with democracy we can all forge ahead. Democracy cannot succeed when people don't have hope or they're not optimistic. It's important that we allow our mentalities, our mindsets of yesterday, given our experiences behind us, and try to know that the future is much more promising and has greater promise for us than the past. And that's why we must hold ourselves to a mindset of hope and optimism. You know, there is no system in the world in which government is not the one that implements the law. So government being the only guarantor and implementer of the law cannot be in a position to violate the law, because if it does, it is the very government that has to correct its own violation, because a political party does not implement laws, you know, no matter whether it is in power or in the opposition. It is always government. So government has a moral, legal, constitutional responsibility to implement laws. That's why it is there. Okay. But this is what I want to say about the session, since this is the topic you've raised. The people who have high expectations have every reason to have high expectations because, one, they are Cameroonians. Two, they know that we're in a democracy. And three, the agenda, the context is such that this session is taking place right after the major national dialogue and just before we have major elections. So Cameroonians, knowing very well that the major national dialogue was a defining historic moment in the life of our country, and knowing very well that bold and revolutionary recommendations were made, and these are recommendations. Some people even prefer to use the word proposals. They are propositions. They are not really, you know. They are not resolutions. Yeah, they are not resolutions. They were addressed to the head of state, who was the initiator and convener of the major national dialogue. Now, we have a session which is coming up, which is a routine, normal section dedicated to the budget. But we know that the fact
dedicated principally
to the budget, but the fact that it is dedicated
to the finance law.
Yes,
to the finance law. The budget is an outcome of the finance law.
There is no law which forbids this session of Parliament from adopting, discussing other issues, other bills none whatsoever. Right. Yes. So the government is not in any violation. This is within constitutional and legal bounds.
Okay. And Joe, let me just add also that the Parliament will give an opportunity for the government to announce its economic, social, cultural program for the financial
next finance year. Yes, Barrister Kamende.
If I may chip in something just with regard to what Prof said about the fact that after the major national dialogue, we were supposed to have returned to our constituencies to brief the population.
It's Dr. Kinge.
Dr. Kinge. In fact,
Kingsley Ngange.
Okay, it's Dr. Kingsley. In fact, that major national dialogue that took place, it wasn't any constitutional arrangement which we could say this is as per article this of the constitution, this major national dialogue took place. It wasn't a parliamentary session. I even stood against parliamentarians, be they of the National Assembly or of the Senate. I stood against them going for this major national dialogue because the head of state knows where to consult them institutionally. Their being in that major national dialogue was irrelevant. In fact, if the head of state wanted to get from the civil society, they should have allowed the civil society to be consulted by the head of state for him to make any opinion out of it. The parliamentarians, that was not their place. They were supposed to be in parliament, and if the head of state wanted to consult them, it would have been in Congress. That is when the two houses meet for the head of state to put any question for debate on the table. And that is when their opinion will count. This issue of inviting parliamentarians to go and sit in a crowd, and be given the chance to talk when it is the time for the ordinary Cameroonians to talk, it is not necessary. All right. And then just to add to the major national dialogue. In fact, we have seen every signal. What about, we're talking as if this is the first national dialogue that took place, or this is the first conference that has taken place involving all the stakeholders of the nation. We have had tripartite, and we had even the all Anglophone conference that held and gave their proposals for it to be adopted, and it was taken. Has it been implemented? Has anything? Yes. In fact, when I go back to the newspapers of the 90s, I see a replay of all what we are doing now. how can a country progress when we are doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results?
Maybe because the actors are different today.
No, the actors are different, but it's just a matter of, it's a smoke screen. What has been happening? It's a constitutional failure. Each time they see the population rises up, they now come in with a cloak, some sort of a window dressing of a constitutional talk, and then after that, we may even put in constitutional provisions as per this in a major national dialogue, and they will never be implemented. And then we will be called upon again to revisit that same constitution when it must have all failed. Just look at the term limit. It was implemented, it was put in the constitution of 1996. And just after, as the first mandate went through, the second one was almost coming through, it was changed when it was about to be applied. How do you call that? A constitutional provision that was never applied. And when it was about to be applied, that's when it was scrapped off. Is that not constitutional failure?
No, it's not failure.
It's constitutional failure.
No, in a democracy, it was adopted by the parliament.
It's constitutional failure.
And I want to remind the senator that I was a delegate at the tripartite. I hope he knows this. And I know exactly that the tripartite did not fail, because if we are here today talking and he is in a position to talk the way he's talking, it is partly because the tripartite had put in the conditions and set the stage for these sorts of...
For 23 years today, what has been applied, has the constitution been applied? For 23 years today, the constitution we are about to change now. Has it been applied?
That's why he says, because part of
I want to react.
Please,
I want to react.
Okay, please,
I want to hold the view.
Please,
I want to hold the view.
Senator, please.
I want to hold the view.
Senator, Barrister Ndong, please.
Yes.
Just yes, Senator.
Yes.
We'll come back to that. We are already going into evaluation, so I want us to get the report.
How can the senator say that
I will get the report on the celebration of November 6th. Give us that report. Report, please.
We applied provisions of the constitution selectively.
The big weeks of the CPDM Central Committee were ushered into the courtyard of the party headquarters in Yaoundé by song and dance in honor of their chairperson, President Paul Biya, whom the Central Committee Secretary General described as a symbol of good leadership, who has clocked 37 years in power.
Le président Paul Biya.
On the heels of the founding fathers of Cameroon, President Biya symbolizes the irreversible values of peace, unity, and indivisibility of the national territory.
He promised that all supporters of the CPDM by his voice have renewed their unshakable support for him, appreciating the presence of members of the diplomatic corps, whom he said are friends of Cameroon. In an assuring tone, Jean Kwete said, with his foresighted-ness, wisdom and commitment, President Paul Biya should continue to translate the aspirations of all compatriots in the individual and collective levels. Conspicuous among the party gurus were the Minister of State Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gonga, the Prime Minister, Joseph Dion Gute, and Minister Director of the Civil Cabinet, Samuel Mvondo Ayolo.
Okay. I hope tempers have calmed down, so I want us to be orderly, but you would speak out. You say what you want to say on the set. So, 37 years celebrations the other day, or earlier on in the week. What were you celebrating?
We were celebrating 37 years of love for our leader, President Biya, having succeeded in 37 years to transform Cameroon into a Cameroon of the New Deal, a New Deal which he himself described or referred to as a New Deal of moralization, rigor, moralization, liberalization, modernization. And we think in 37 years, our love for him is still strong because we see him as a model and as our champion. And we think in 37 years, he's done a lot to transform Cameroon in the political arena, in the economic arena, in the diplomatic arena, in the social arena. And we think that even though we have problems here and there and that there's still work to be done, we think overall the glass is half full. And for being half full, we have every reason to to celebrate
okay.
and to continue to show our love and encourage him to continue to go ahead.
All right, you've made your point. Yeah. Don't worry, I'll come to you. But they who have CPDM leanings, I want them to set the stage. Yeah. Then you'll be able to. Now, okay. It looks like the CPDM monopolized its celebrations.
It looks like, that's what you say, but I don't see it from that perspective. I think that where we celebrate...
Because everywhere they were celebrating, the pictures show it. People who went there were in CPDM outfit, and the officials were CPDM officials. Since it was, go ahead.
Yeah, probably the cameras didn't do a good job.
That's
and probably decided to focus and personalize it. I don't think that it was basically only a CPDM affair. I think we're celebrating a nation that despite the challenges and the odds, we've been able to pull ourselves together for the past 37 years. Until recently, you know that Cameroon was referred to and rightly as an island of peace. And despite the recent challenges, I think we still have that peaceful nature in us as Cameroonians, and we're celebrating that. We are celebrating also, like Prof said, love for somebody who has been resilient and who has been focused and who is heading towards a direction. And storms will rise here and there, but the important thing is always, every once in a while, giving the nation a sense of direction. At the same time, and I had an opportunity to say this in another interview, we're not happy that we have our brothers and sisters who are displaced, others who are refugees, others who are dying. So it was a time from, our own perspective in Boya Faco 3, where we celebrated, to send out a word of love, a word of encouragement, a word of peace, a word of optimism to the rest of us, to say, come on, let us come back to the rails and give a nation to look ahead.
All right.
So I think celebrations are not only from the direction that you think about, but also an appeal, which is an ongoing appeal.
The camera sees only what the eye sees.
For peace to return.
The camera
once the eye is biased, then the camera becomes biased. You and I know what I'm talking about in terms of journalism, in terms of camera position.
Okay, yeah. You've met your point. How would you react to what they have said in terms of the involvement of Cameroonians to the 37 years of the New Deal?
I will react that the 37 years of the New Deal is a deceit for them to tell us they are celebrating. They should be making krada in local parlance. We call it krada. Because
let me put the question the other way.
The 37 years.
Did you join them in celebrations?
I would not have done it with my soul bleeding.
Why?
My soul was bleeding.
Okay.
You find, coming to power 37 years back, the head of state to power, there was a coup d'etat, after which economic crisis, after which cuts of people's salaries twice, after which you have Boko Haram, after which you have the Nozo crisis, after which you have total violation of Cameroonians not to express themselves, talk, even correct the government. And when you look at their celebration, scanty. They go gather in a hall and put cameras. You people know your gymnastics that you play. It's not a crowd puller. After 37 years, we have the Ezeka crisis. Everything is a cry die. They should not come and tell Cameroonians that they are celebrating anything. Because, as Professor Ngole said, thank God he said it, they were doing a celebration of Paul Biya's 37 years, not 37 years of the party in power. Because when I look at what is happening, in fact, these people are resilient to deceive us all the time.
Okay.
They have nothing to deliver. They have nothing good.
Yes.
Have they done for 37 years?
You have made the point.
Except for some few.
Nothing good.
Excuse me. I say nothing good because we are on a perpetual cry in this country.
Okay.
We are running from one trouble to the other. One trouble to the other. Yes. Even when they build roads, the roads are breaking. They build bridges. Water will swallow it up. All the quartiers are inundated. What good are we getting from their 37 years of power?
Mr. SG, can you allow your co-panelists to speak? We were supposed to be celebrating 37 years of the second president of this country.
Yes.
37 years of the New Deal.
Yes.
And the New Deal government came in with a lot of hope and aspirations. We didn't see your party celebrate. And we know that you are on the other side, no doubt. But this is a government and the advent of a second president of the country. Why did you not join them?
Look, I don't believe in celebrating being in power. We celebrate achievements. In fact, I've seen something here as I've noticed throughout my years of life and being in active politics. I've seen the best position to occupy in this nation is to be the head of state. Because I think if today I'm made head of state, the way professor and doctor here, they will paint me. In fact, I will look like an ornament. I will be beautified because there will be nothing that, if some may even refuse that I even go to school. You see, this is actually the reality that we are living. The way they paint is such that within the party, the CPDM party, I don't think they auto-correct themselves with regard to what is going wrong. In fact, 37 years. In fact, if we did this 37 years, we had just had 3 presidents other than the present president. Cameroon would have been further than we are today. Because honestly speaking, for 37 years, the CPDM government has given all that they have got. That is why they only have deification that is left. They only deify, they only press the head of state because there is nothing again that they can offer. Okay. Honestly speaking, we don't need to celebrate the years of, we are supposed to be mourning because everything that was handed over to this regime has been destroyed with the passage of time. In fact, the only thing that human beings can expect is development, even on their own without the government. Give us here in this room without any government, we can develop ourselves. And that is what we are celebrating, to have developed ourselves within 37 years as if there was no government. Honestly speaking, there have been no governmental developmental orientation. We have been going down the drain. The roads have been, from Bamina to here, it's taken almost 2 days to reach here now. Because you start the journey the night before, and you reach here within a day. Within a day, which is not what used to be before the new government came out. We talk about democracy. We are instead going down the drain because look at what is happening. The rallies of my colleague party cannot hold. It cannot hold. In fact, but they immediately are rejecting the application for a rally. They are holding their own. The house is being granted easily.
Let us be orderly, so that we can be able to express ourselves.
If you look at it in all respects, you see we have underdeveloped ourselves. The only thing that has happened successfully in this regime is that of creating milliardaires as against the population. Because all the country's wealth,
in English we say billionaires.
The billionaires. All the country's wealth is getting into individual pockets. And that is why we can see people supporting the regime. That is the only thing that they have got to take home. That the regime has made them richer than they would have been. But the poor man, the Commonwealth is actually down the drain.
Yeah, you know, a couple of years back or decades back, you could not speak the way you are speaking. That's it. Right?
And let me tell you, people spoke, and the people spoke, and
today you're talking.
Look, even if you talk. No, people have been speaking. But the thing is that what used to happen to them was happening because we have social media now. We have social media now. Let me say, now, when you say unfounded, doctor, I take my excuse. I can be asked, just that we have limited time. I can be given, if I'm given enough time, I will develop all what I'm saying here. I don't want to be an academic, to be intellectually dishonest.
All right, okay. We'll come
because we have got situations now where professors have been transformed to be partisan, of which they now sing party instead of analyzing situations.
You have made your point.
I think that might
let me just say,
Professor
let me just chip in to say that for Barrister Ndong to say that nothing good has happened in 37 years, it's all been deceit, and that there should be a cry. It's almost like insulting the genius or the intelligence of the Cameroonian people, because Barrister Ndong is ignoring the fact that in those 37 years, the Cameroonian people have constantly and consistently elected and re-elected President Biya to the position or to the office of head of state, as they did just last 7th of October. So, unless he wants to deny that he was elected and re-elected. He was elected. That's a fact.
No.
Secondly, for Senator Kemende to say that people are celebrating and they are not celebrating achievements, as if he's ignoring the fact that there have been achievements. If he wants to know what the achievements are, you yourself have just said one of the achievements of the New Deal, of the 37 years of President Biya, is that in power, is that instead of Senator Kemende being locked up, arrested, or neutralized, or going to hide in the bush to challenge and to criticize the 37 years of President Biya, he's on a prestigious set, thanks to the 37 years of the New Deal, which
they could not resist it because it was a wind that blew from the east. It's a wind that blew from the east.
It is a political will.
I think
this is example. Look, one of the successes of the New Deal, of President Biya's 37 years in power, is that the political dispensation, the political atmosphere, the political calculus has changed in the direction of greater liberalization, greater freedoms. And that is why the likes of Senator Kemende and my friend Barrister Ndong, they can say what they want to say, and we are here to exchange in a very friendly and fraternal and patriotic manner, and we are all enjoying each other, enriching each other, and no one will be caught out there, locked up. No, because this is one of the successes of the New Deal. We are celebrating it here. Okay.
And just an addendum.
Freedom and liberalization.
Just an addendum.
People are caught and released. Abdul Karim was just caught and released.
Please, a little bit of some orderliness so we can enjoy the debate.
Thank you very much. Yes. We are very organized people, those of us from the classroom. So I was saying that if you read his 1985 publication on communal liberalism, I'm on page 57. The onus of the development of a country is not only on the head of state, it's a shared responsibility. And there it talks of national solidarity. And I think one of the reasons why the senator and the secretary general of CMR don't see any, Cameroon Renaissance Movement do not see anything good, it's probably because of lack of this national solidarity. This is a new deal that suffered 1987 to 1990 an economic serious crisis. From 1990, 1992, serious political crisis. From 1992 right up to 2011, serious social crisis in terms of corruption. And show me a nation that's attacked. Show me a nation that's attacked from 4 directions simultaneously. Boko Haram in the north, the Sereka rebels and highway robbers east, southwest, northwest. We have what's going on in the southwestern part of the nation, the pirates on the Bakassi Peninsula, simultaneously. The resilience is there. We are talking about national solidarity to be able to move our country forward. And I think that's why probably the enemy finds a way to easily get into us and destabilize us, is because of this negativism. I came in here with the message of hope, to say that we can be better. We are moving forward. It has had its challenges. We are not saying that it's been bed of roses. These are part of the challenges. But the resilience that we have surmounted these challenges as a people. And I remember the head of state during his last inaugural address, he even told the young people, I have heard your concerns. You want to be part of the management of this country that will be taken care of. And I think when we get into that, in these next years, and before I end, I wish to say that we are talking about emergence by 2035. We are here.
We have suffered setbacks.
We are here.
It will not be 2035 again.
That's the spirit I'm talking about. So the point I'm making is, what is your contribution as an individual, as a party, towards getting us to the emergence, rather than tearing the country into pieces every now and then with negativism?
You'll have time to...
He's asking me a question.
No, I was going to ask you.
No, I'm the one asking.
Let me put
don't answer his questions. I'll ask you my own question.
So let me put the context of the New Deal. The New Deal is not a new concept. Franklin Roosevelt started it in America between 1933 and 1936 to come out of the Great Depression. There were 3 key words that defined the New Deal. 1 was relief, 2 was reform, 3 was recovery.
So what is us?
All of that. Okay. We are trying to give assurance to Cameroonians that we can be better out of this distressful moment. Okay. We're trying to reform political institutions.
Let me get to your neighbor.
Give me enough time to explain this thing to our people.
No, you'll have time to do that. Okay, Barrister Ndong, one of the things which the yardsticks we use in trying to judge the success of a leader is through the success of the successor. When you look at Cameroon from the past 37 years, do you see the political evolution of Cameroon in the light of something which we're building a harmonious nation from the bits and pieces we picked from the colonial past?
Mr. Joe, when you ask that question, I want to cry. We cannot be talking of...
You don't cry on yourself.
We cannot be talking of political evolution, looking at the successes which are not there. I am saying part of this country is in fracas, fire, brimstone, northwest, southwest. People are in prison. Cameroonians of the northwest, southwest are in prison. You start talking about successes of the government. They have arrested and deprived everybody. with the repressive law of 2014, repressing all fundamental human rights, instruments that Cameroon has ratified, and they are not applying it. What is Ayub Tabe and the government doing in prison? If we are talking of political successes, why did Kamto go to prison after winning the presidential election? He was supposed to be the president of this country. He is not there. He's no more there. What happened in 1992?
Okay.
Just let me finish.
No, just wait. I want to ask you a question
yes.
on what you just said.
Yes. That's right.
Now, do you, as a political party, you went to the Constitutional Council, right?
Yes.
What if the Constitutional Council ruled in your favor? What would have happened?
It would have been the true truism of the results of the poll because we contested it.
You are a barrister at law, right?
Yes.
Does the judge always rule in favor of the barrister?
He rules with the facts and figures before it. And what we are saying, the Constitutional Council started bringing out evidence and cut it halfway because it saw that it was going to our side. No. That one, it was on Monjo Vision. Everybody saw it. When they stopped it, we said, go ahead, bring the proofs. They didn't because they knew that they were going to the results, the true results. And let me tell you, if you go through that result, you see a lot of incongruities.
Okay.
Where percentages are not matching up because statisticians did not know that they were going to be caught up in that trap.
Just hold on. Let me ask you another question.
Go ahead.
Now, as a party that is aspiring to get to power,
yes,
would you discourage people from respecting the laws in force?
First of all, our goals were, we are a Republican party. It is in our slogans. We are a party that wants to take power through the ballot box. We are a party that wants to respect the authorities and the laws of this country. We do everything to respect it. How can CPDM hold its rallies and we cannot hold? SDF cannot hold. Nobody can hold a political rally, a political meeting.
You're not answering my question.
Protest. No, it is. It is the answer. It is the answer.
You are not answering my question.
With a lot of force.
No, please. Excuse me.
CPDM has held its rally yesterday. We have not done ours.
Excuse me.
And you we don't respect the law?
No, just hold on.
Go ahead.
No, you don't shout, please. Just respond to my preoccupation so that
it's because they are agitated by my left.
No, okay. Yes. Just hold on. Yes, I'll come to you, Senator.
Go ahead.
Yes, let me ask him another question. Now, you said you expect, which means you don't. Because if you don't respect the laws in force, you cannot come and expect others to respect you. Am I right?
It is what you should be saying, that if the government does not want to respect the laws, he should not expect the people to respect it or him. No, I am saying we have been pushed to the wall. Since 2012 that our party was created, they have never and they don't agree for us to hold our meeting. Is that not a violation of the law?
So that's why you want to take power.
It is not taking power from the streets. Nobody has gone to the street to take power.
Barrister,
Nobody has gone to the street to take power.
I'll come back to you, but I want Senator to answer this question, and I want us to be orderly and don't shout so that we enjoy the debate, right?
That's right.
Okay. We were talking about the New Deal, and we're talking about the political future of this country. Yes. They are institutions that have been laid. They are institutions that are being that govern the country. You might not like them, but you're obliged to follow them because that's what's existing, right?
Exactly.
Okay. As an observer, and a very keen observer, because you are an actor, not even an observer, as a political party, how would you judge the political evolution of the country under Mr. Biya since the SDF came to power more than 26 years ago?
In fact, it
came into being, not to power. I want to beg your pardon.
It has been, how do you call it, a force, the democratic process has been forced down the throat of the system. In fact, throughout, we have seen how they manage it. You see, even in the beginning of the electoral code that my colleague just made mention of, we have been moving from O'Neill 1, O'Neill 2 to Elekam, and then where we are now. In fact, they think at every single moment.
But we would say thanks to you, right?
Thanks to us. But then the question you need to ask
things are changing, right?
The thing you need to ask yourself is, why not give it all? Why you give it in piecemeal? Why? Because in every election, electoral process, if it is one man, one vote, in a transparent manner, through an independent electoral commission that can compile results right to proclamation, in fact, there is nobody to win and nobody to lose. We are all the winners.
Okay.
Why not give it all? It's like you set yourself a target. And then you start adjusting yourself along the way to the obstacles you have along the way, instead of trying to overcome those obstacles and be focused on your target. The target is for us to attain the democratic dispensation that exists elsewhere in the world, where we have seen peaceful change of power through the ballot box. But here in Cameroon,
some of them. I want to ask Senator
where we are now,
1 or 2 questions.
Joe, where we are, there is in fact there's serious blockage as far as changing power from one elected president to the other is concerned. I even went through the Constitution, and I even found out I look at something that amazed me in the Constitution, that there is no provision with regard to how the ceremony of handing over power from one person to the other after elections is conducted. You know that it's because the Constitution was made not with that in mind, that you don't have any ceremony, any provision in the Constitution which talks of how procedurally power is supposed to be handed, apart from resignation, whereby, in fact, there is no there's no way by which elected the new person takes over from the old person. And then, Joe, let me just add something about the development of this country.
No, we have political evolution.
Yeah, political evolution.
Yes.
How can we even evolve, like, as a country, when after independence, we are still not independent? What is the pact colonial, the colonial agreement binding us and France still operational? Why is this still operational in this country? In fact, until Prof. and Doctor here answered that question, we cannot talk about the political evolution as a country. We cannot talk about evolution economically like a country.
Let me...
What is the pact colonial still doing in Cameroon? While other countries, small countries like Benin, are looking for ways to come out of it, we are not making any statement with regard to it. We are instead giving a report to France about things that take place in Cameroon.
Yes. If you think it's a pact colonial, if you think it's a pact colonial that prevails, then you ignore the fact that
is this still valid?
It is not the pact colonial that made you a senator.
Is this still valid?
You are a senator of the Republic of Cameroon because Cameroon has selected you.
If it's valid, why is he doing it between us and France?
Senator, please. Just hold on.
Nobody interrupted.
We'll give you the opportunity
this idea of pact colonial, see, we have said that the only way we, as Africans, as citizens of our republic, can move ahead is if we leave the mentalities of the past, the mindsets of the past,
that's right.
No matter how heavy they may be, and we develop a new mentality, a mentality that is optimistic, a mentality that is full of hope. Because if you hold on to the fact that it is what you call the pact colonial which prevails, what you're telling our public is that it is the pact colonial that made you a senator. And that you are a senator of the pact colonial, whereas I don't think so. I think you are the senator
is the pact colonial operational? Why are our reserves? What are our reserves doing the French treasury? Why we are suffering?
No, let me just finish.
Our reserves are doing what in French treasury?
I know that it is the
Senator,
people that elected you an SDF senator, which is fine. I respect that. The other thing I want to make...
to talk the way I'm talking. What's the pact colonial still doing in Cameroon?
It's not the pact colonial that made you a senator. You are here because you are a Cameroonian senator, not a colonial or a pact colonial.
Why should I be under another colonial?
No, we are proud to have you as a senator. The other point I want to make is that Barrister Ndong said that the NOZO, Northwest Southwest, is a prison, and that the CRM was stopped from holding its rallies. This is what I want to reply to that. That, look, first, the population of the Northwest and Southwest, we might argue in one way or the other. Officially, I think it's somewhere between 4 million or so. Others will give it more and so forth. But this is not the argument. We know statistically that more than 80, 85%, if not 90% of the population of the Southwest still lives in the Northwest and Southwest, which means that those people do not see the Northwest and Southwest as a prison. They love to live there. That is their place. They are living there. If it were a prison, they would make you know that it's a prison and they will not want bed. They are living there. So for us to say it's a prison, it's not in the fact that these people are still in their homes. The other point I want to make is that the CPDM knows and recognizes that it is 1 out of 300 political parties that exist in Cameroon. And as a party that respects the law always and supports the fact that it is the state instrumentalized by the government that implements laws and not the party. The party does not implement laws, even if the party does not like the laws. All over the world, it is the government, it is the state through the government that implements laws. We, as members of the party, or my party, as far as I know, the CPDM, always, in respect of the law, applies for an authorization. No matter how small, no matter how big, the rally or the meeting
is declaration.
If you do not apply, if they say no and you insist,
that is where I will not allow you to talk. That we don't declare.
Not authorization.
We declare. What method do you use that we don't use?
No, they declare as well.
We declare as well. You people reject systematically. It's an authoritarian political system where you people have given orders for other parties not to be able to do its own public.
Okay, we're waiting for TK Elvis to give us the online reactions, but before we come to that, I just wanted us to maybe you chip in your views on this. The challenges which the country is facing now.
Yes.
What hope?
The hope is when we abandon arrogance. If the government abandons, because we have been contributing, we have been making, in fact, somebody asked a question here that we are not, the development of the country is not dependent on the government. We have been making contributions, making suggestions as to how even the national dialogue just went through is concerned. But how many of our suggestions, even though looking so objective in character, looking so normal, has never been applied. In fact, if I were even in the position of the government, I think I would have even killed the opposition literally by just doing what is correct. Asking ourselves, when we just need to put anything that we want to do on that test of whether is it good or is bad. And if we see that it's good, don't care where it comes from, apply it.
Okay.
And if it is bad, let's reject it. But then we cannot be coloring in ideas. Okay. We have said many things, even in the Senate that we are in. Yes. We have said we should discuss the issue about what is happening in our country. Which is that other institution that can represent the people to discuss something which the crisis that the government is going through, without it being only the head of state to do it. But now everybody listens only to what a head of state is just an institution. The presidency is just an institution amongst many others.
Okay,
and the parliament can do what the head of state cannot do because they are representative of the people.
All right.
I understand his position. He is opposition. Always probably opposing.
But we give ideas. The ideas that we give must always rejected.
Opposing and giving the impression that they will be better if they are put in the same situation.
We don't hide
probably. It's a technique, political technique, to paint the efforts of ongoing efforts black so that, but if you have lived in the Northwest and Southwest,
I am living there.
Like some of us.
Calling out ground zero. I'm living there. Don't
and not only ground zero, sitting in a comfortable when you live where action is, like some of us around Tole, where I come from, and I live with the people daily. And you see the difficulties people go through. We'll not be talking like this. I have an impression that we just capitalize and put our political ambitions on everything which is going on.
I want us to be humble.
We have people who are very difficult. We should be positive.
No, I understand your position.
We should be positive and hopeful.
Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Just one word. I want us to pay this tribute to Ben Muna, and then we'll come back and you give me your last word on the current debate. Let's have this excerpt. Ben Muna was with us on the 14th of May 2017, and when we invited the sons and daughters of founding fathers, this is what he said concerning the problems in the country.
When Endeli, Fonchal, Muna, in Bamenda, all of different parties, they will climb on the same platform. They will speak and they will disagree. They went into the same house. I ate. Yeah. I live this. I want to draw your attention to the conduction of the elections of 59 when the coalition CPNC lost. No violence. I want to address the question of the plebiscite. Went through, no violence. We have had a culture of political culture of understanding the difference between opinion and enmity. Okay. And this is what we're saying here, that these people who advocated for the union of the Cameroon, that the Southern Cameroons and the French Cameroons, did it in good faith. They did it in love. They did it in the spirit of knowing that we have two cultures. And it is important for us to remember that. Now, has the present evolution of our country carried forward the two cultures? Let me say that people think that the problem was the abolition of the of the Federation. No, after abolishing the Federation, if we respect each other, if we are people who love each other, if we respect other personalities, who can still, in this one union, be able to promote and allow the culture and the educational culture of each part, the one we inherited from the British and what they inherited from the French, to follow.
Yes, we've just followed Barrister Ben Muna there, who was laid to rest yesterday. Maybe a word on him.
No,
Barrister.
He's a great man, and he has actually fought a good fight. He deserves a rest. The messages that he has left behind, the pieces of information, pieces of advice that he has left behind, if we were to listen very well, we will not be where we are.
Okay.
A great lawyer, magistrate, politician. He made his time. Recently, when we were discussing with a friend in Boya about the legacy, one statement came up. Remember, during the talks in Bamenda, when he said the children can lose 2 years or 3, if they can, of school, just so they can get a bright future. I think he will also be remembered and judged on that. He has fought a good fight, and we are here to hold the fort. Thank you.
Barrister.
Yes, Barrister Batonier Ben Muna is my legal father. I trained in his chambers, worked with him for 20 years. I know him very well. An honest man. He has done politics honestly. He has done legal practice honestly. He's dying and leaving so many Cameroonians trained in the legal profession, in the legal field. We regret. He is a great icon and leaves big memory and a big vacuum in the judicial family. May his soul rest in peace.
I never knew that you trained in his chambers.
I trained in Bemuna's chambers.
Okay.
He trained me I stayed with him 20 years before becoming a lawyer.
Okay.
Under his training and Akeremuna, who still lives.
Okay.
My memories of Barrister Muna is that he was a conscientious politician and legal practitioner, and he was a great gentleman. And I always appreciated him for that. And each time I met with him, I always told him that I didn't say it because I'm on the set. I said it whenever we met, and I had 2 occasions when we were at a conference together. And I think that all that we can say is that may his great soul rest in peace. He's, as everyone has said, he's fought a good fight, and we'll let the good Lord do the rest.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I thought we would say a word again, but our time is up. We're supposed to end at 1:30, so you will not be able to say any word again because our time is up. And I remember what Franklin Bayern said the other day about Ben Muna, that he was misunderstood by his generation. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you for being with us on the program. See you next week. Stay with CRTV if you can. Good day.